Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night. First we're going to start with the Black Sea. The trade blockade continues. As you can see, a significant number of ships are blocked in the vicinity of Snake Island waiting for their turn to start their movement or something like this. Also, as you can see, there are some ships that are allowed to go through the river, through the Dunaj, so that means that some of the ships are able to bypass this territory. Probably they're moving, heading in direction not of Ukrainian ports, but in the direction of Romanian ports or something like this. Also, we have another interesting update from this territory. Some sources reported about the usage of United States aircraft in this area, Lockheed, and according to information we have, during these flights, these aircraft turns off every time these aircraft get closer to the Russian positions or to the Snake Island. This aircraft turned off his radio signal, and every time this aircraft returned back, the signals was turned on. So this confirms the usage of this aircraft in Ukrainian favor. Now we're moving further to the south, to the Kherson area. Today we got a lot of very interesting updates from this bridgehead. The first and probably the most important, that the Russians published another video confirmation of destroyed another IRIS-T air defense system, very powerful modern Western air defense system that was destroyed as a result of Lancet strike. Another reminder that this is the second air defense system in the same area that was destroyed during the previous days, during these months, during July, let's call it like this. Let's increase the number of updates, and you're gonna see that a week ago another IRIS-T system was destroyed a little bit to the west of the original position of IRIS-T that was destroyed during the previous 24 hours. So as you can see, the Ukrainians have lost two IRIS-T systems at the same region, which confirms that the value of this region and importance of this region. If the Ukrainians deploy two air defense system at the same area, that means that they're protecting some very important area, and there is no other position where the Ukrainians are able to redeploy their forces, their air defense forces, to protect their troopers or bases somewhere in the vicinity of Nikolaev. Probably, as you can see when talking about Nikolaev, there are at least three aviation brigades in this area that Ukrainians are using or were using to attack Crimea and to attack South Donetsk and Zaporozhye area with Storm Shadows missiles. Also, the Ukrainians published two videos of bombing and shelling the Russian positions in Oleshki. This video we see how the Russians were trying to establish their mobile mortar system. That mobile mortar system was discovered by the Ukrainian drone forces, and after that the Ukrainians attacked. We haven't received any updates about the results of that attack. Maybe the Russians were able to survive and evacuate themselves. On this video we see how the Ukrainians using anti-tank artillery system were bombing the Russian positions in the small settlement Kardyshenka. And this is very interesting video because according to this strike we see that the closest Ukrainian positions are very far, and this is not a normal artillery system. That was attack of just anti-tank artillery system. So probably the Ukrainians were attacking this area somewhere from the islands between this small Kherson and this small settlement Gola Pristan and Kardyshenka. Now we're moving further. We're going to the Zaporozhye area. During the previous night we also got some updates from this bridgehead, and the most important probably is that the Russians start bombing and shelling Kamyanska using the guided bombs. We haven't received such updates of usage of guided bombs in these directions probably since the previous year. For some reason the Russians were not attacking this area, maybe because of the fact that both sides, either the Russians and the Ukrainians, are using this bridgehead for prisoners exchange. But now, as you can see, the Russians took a decision to break the rules and attack the Ukrainian positions. Also, we got, if you remember, yesterday we discussed the video of Ukrainian attempt to attack in direction of Russian positions in the vicinity of Konovalova, and yesterday we got the video, one video of destroyed Ukrainian armored vehicles, and today we got the same video but from the same area but from another angle. This is the video. So according to this we see that the Russians discovered Ukrainian tank and then using the drones Lancet strike that armored vehicle, that tank was destroyed. Now we are moving to Zaporozhye area. Today we got also some updates from this bridgehead. The Russian sources this morning started reporting that Ukrainians, after a few days of operational pause, of regrouping and so on, launched another massive attack in this direction. Probably today we're going to receive more updates about the Ukrainian attempt to attack, more destroyed Bradleys, Leopards and tanks and so on. So we'll follow the situation. This update we got somewhere at 9 p.m. or a.m. of the local time. And so let's wait a little bit. Probably today we're going to see more videos of destroyed Ukrainian vehicles. And the Russians published the video how they managed to discover and to destroy Ukrainian positions. This is a very important video to geolocate the real combat line and to geolocate the Ukrainian positions in this area. As you can see, according to this video, the Ukrainians managed to develop their bridgehead to the south and to capture the, let's say, the northern fortifications, ex-northern Russian fortifications in this area. So basically these black dots are under Ukrainian control. So according to this video, we can update the map and show this territory as real Ukrainian control. And we will do this before the next video. Now we are moving to the Vremivka tactical bridgehead. Before we go into Vremivka tactical bridgehead, today I read a very interesting article about the fortifications. And it was a very interesting thing that the left corner, the bottom left map picture, if you can see on the screen, is the Russian fortifications before the beginning of the special military operation. As you can see, there are almost no dots on on this side. The second video to the north left top video picture is the situation when the Russians left Kherson, so it's almost a year ago, and as you can see, still there are almost no fortifications. And if we take a look at the bottom right corner, we're going to see the current situation. So basically the author of this article says that the Ukrainians did have possibilities in the previous year to launch a greatest counter-offensive operation, and they had possibilities to penetrate because they were nothing to penetrate, and they had possibilities to return control over Berdyansk, Melitopol, Takmak. The only thing that Ukrainians didn't have is weapon, and they were asking weapon for almost all these times, all those days, all those months, but the Western countries didn't provide them. And now the Western countries provided them weapon, and we see the level of fortification. So the Ukrainians waste their time, and now I believe they can't do anything and they can't break the situation because of very heavy strongholds and very heavy level of fortifications. When talking about Vremivka tactical bridgehead, we haven't received nothing. If you remember, yesterday we discussed about the Ukrainian attempts to attack Urozhaina, yet we haven't received any updates about any progress of the Ukrainians on this bridgehead. Now we're moving further to the Avdiivka area. Today we got a very interesting video from the soldiers of 110th Mechanized Brigade. This is probably the most powerful and most famous brigade in this area. This brigade is responsible for defending Avdiivka and many other settlements. And today the forces of that brigade, some of the commander reported that the situation is critical in Avdiivka. And you remember, and I'll remind you that every time Ukrainian commanders published a video of a very poor situation with their forces, the next few days this or that fortifications falls and the Russians captured this or that sector or territory. These men reported that during the previous days, new soldiers were arrived into his positions. There was some kind of redeployment, relocations, rotation, I don't know. And he claimed that the quality of soldiers that were moved under his responsibility is very low. Some of the soldiers doesn't have body armor. Some of the soldiers used to be a cook, like in the kitchens. Some of them used to be a driver. Some of them used to be like electronic warfare soldiers. So nobody of them has experience even with guns or weapon. And he told that the main reason why these soldiers were redeployed in this direction is because of the fact that these soldiers refused to pay a part of their salaries to their commanders, let's say, in the mainland. So the corruption schema is that commanders on the mainland force the Ukrainian soldiers to give them a part of their salary, and if they do this, they're not sending them to the meat grinders operation. If they're not paying them salary, these soldiers will be transferred to the most like dangerous areas like Avdiivka or like Bakhmut, Klishchiivka, and so on. So those were the words of this commander. So furthermore, he reported that within the next few days, according to information, he should start the storming operation in the vicinity of Avdiivka, and we'll see what is going to happen, what is going to be next. Now let's move to Klishchiivka. We haven't received nothing from this bridgehead during the night, just a few more drone attacks of Ukrainian forces against the Russian armored vehicles that were moving some supply and support to the Russian forces on the combat line. On this video we see how the Ukrainians discovered Russian armored vehicle, and then this armored vehicle was attacked by the drone behind. So as you can see, this armored vehicle was damaged. We see the smoke, but this armored vehicle didn't stop and continue, and later there was an explosion. So we can see that probably the tactic of usage of drones is very successful from the Ukrainian side. Now we are moving to the northern flank of Artyomovsk of Bakhmut. Today we got also a lot of updates from this bridgehead. The Russians reported that they discovered and mentioned and tracked Ukrainian movements in this area, and after that they start bombing and shelling the Ukrainian positions in this area. The main movements took place in the vicinity of Fedorovka, Razdolovka, Perezino, Vesyola, all those settlements that located on the north of Solidar. The Russians controlled the situations. The Russians still managed to repulse every single attack in the past, and so this is the probably another episode of Ukrainian attempt to attack, but the Russians discovered and destroyed Ukrainian forces. And also the Russians published the video of destroyed Ukrainian positions along the railways between Solidar and also Berestova, Belogorovka, Yampolovka area. The Ukrainians from their side published a video of a reconnaissance operation about the Lysychansk oil refinery. On this video we see how the Ukrainians have possibilities to attack the tanks, to attack armored vehicles, to discover Russian positions on the territory of oil refinery. So we see the complete absence of air defense system from the Russian side in this strategically important area, but we know that there are a lot of problems from the Russian side. A little bit to the south we got a lot of updates how the 10th Mountain Assault Brigade were bombing and attacking the Russian infantry during the previous weeks in the vicinity of Sporna. So we see the problems, we see the Russian problems. The only question is whether these absence of air defense worse these losses among armored vehicles or not. It's very difficult to understand, very complicated, but the Ukrainians, as you can see, have possibilities to do everything about this oil refinery. When talking about Kupiansk Liman, we haven't almost received nothing, just few geolocated confirmations of the usage. For example, by the 66th Mechanized Brigade, the AS Brigade was attacking the Russian positions behind the combat line using artillery system. Just strikes against possible Russian positions without any evidence of losses of armored vehicles. And the Russians published video how they managed to discover the Ukrainian machine gun positions in the vicinity of the recently newly created bridgehead on the Ukrainian side of Zherebez River. The Russians discovered the Ukrainian machine gun positions and just using the anti-tank missile destroyed that. So as you can see, the situation has been stabilized. Today we expect more movements on Orekhov bridgehead. Probably the Ukrainians will make attempts to continue offensive operation in the vicinity of Bakhmut, and we expect the upcoming offensive operation or recapturing operation in the vicinity of Avdiivka. Now let's move to the Africa. Today we got also a lot of very interesting updates from this territory. First of all, the thing is that United States of America reported about the beginning of evacuation from Nigeria as well. So the sources, the United States of America have already sent aircrafts for evacuation purposes. So probably they're going to happen something in this area. Furthermore, more and more countries from this region starting giving their own opinion about the situation. For example, the authorities of Ivory Coast reported that if intervention in direction of Nigeria is going to happen, they will take part in this intervention, and they will support the Western coalition to restore the official authority in that country. For example, the authorities from Guinea reported a completely opposite situation. They told us that if something happens, the authority of Guinea will support Nigeria in the war against the Western countries and the Western coalition. Furthermore, the protest started in Senegal against the France power, against the France authorities, against these people. A lot of protests, and probably also something interesting is going to happen in this region. Of course, a lot of things, and I'll remind you that the previous days the countries from this area started trade embargo with the Western countries with uranium and so on, and we expect the increase of prices for energy. And this is not about the energy, not just about the independence of these regions and their own policy. For example, today Jose Borrell reported that the Russians are trying to force the Western countries and many other traders and players to leave African continent, Africa, because of cheap cost for the grain. So they're saying the Western countries doesn't want a cheap grain to get on the Africa, because if it happens, of course, the Russians have possibilities to send a lot of grain, cheap grain, to Africa, and of course this will turn and change the rules of the game. And of course, Western countries don't want to allow this to happen. Of course, they want to buy cheap Russian grain and to add their profit, and after that to sell this grain, but not cheap but very expensive, to the same African country. They don't want to allow the Russians to establish the normal connections with these countries. So anyway, something is going to happen there, and probably the smaller thing that will happen is that the prices will rise. Prices for energy, prices for grain, prices for uranium, and so on. And then probably the Western countries will be happy. But if the prices are not going to rise, then the war is going to start. Everything is about prices, as I understand. And that's it for today, for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.